point in blaming you, you did not know. Oh, I thought you were the one for me. That's why I give you everything. Held you close by the stormy seas. Oh, you meant the world to me. That's why I give you everything. Held you close by the stormy seas. Oh, you meant the world to me. I'm on my own, broken and alone. I feel the rain crashing down all around this empty town. I'm searching for the lost and found, but you don't care, you're unaware. Keep moving like the scars aren't even there. It's in the air like a blazing flare. Don't stare, cause the flames will burn us. I thought you were the one for me. That's why I gave you everything. Held you close by the stormy seas. Oh, you meant the world to me. I used to kiss your head when you cried for me. Hold your hand while the pain was over. Keep you warm by the roaring sea. You meant the world to me.
Sure got everything ready for this. It's national news anyway. Alright guys, today we're going to do call-ins and we're going to talk about floods that happen. Just want to figure out which one I want to do first. Dang, that's okay. We're going to do. We're going to do Waverly, Tennessee flood first.
politics.
On August 21, 2021, multiple 911 callers from Waverly, Tennessee reported being trapped in their homes and unable to swim. A historic flood hit central Tennessee in what citizens described as a mini tsunami. The small town of Waverly, approximately 60 miles west of Nashville, was devastated by flash flooding. What caused this intense flooding to occur? In short, an old frontal boundary. A frontal boundary was present across central Tennessee. While this boundary was decaying, a weak upper air disturbance arrived from the northwest, followed by a flow of warmer, more humid air from the southwest. The inflow from the southwest brought moisture and humidity to the region, reaching records for that date in late August. The inflow of warm air combined with weak disturbance aloft created instability and a perfect recipe for thunderstorms. A low-level jet lifted the humid air to meet the weakening frontal boundary, which developed intense thunderstorms. Winds above the low-level jet aligned from the northwest to the southeast. This made the thunderstorm cells travel parallel and along the front. The individual cells in this thunderstorm repeatedly traveled over the same path, which is known as cell training. Due to heavy rainfall over the same locations for an extended period of time, the areas along the frontal boundary were inundated with rain and consequent flooding. Total precipitable water in the atmosphere reached almost 3 inches. Rainfall rates were measured between 2 to 4 inches per hour. While flood watches were issued almost 24 hours in advance, this historic event in central Tennessee became much worse than predicted. The first flash flood warning was issued on August 21 around 3:30 a.m. The rain started at 4 a.m. and within an hour, multiple roads were closed due to high waters. The National Weather Service issued a flash flood emergency around 7:45 a.m. This warning is reserved for severe threats to life and catastrophic damage. Flash flood emergency statements advised citizens to move to higher ground immediately and to avoid floodwaters. The heavy rain continued for nearly 8 hours. On August 21, some counties received over 17 inches of rain, which is a potential all-time state record for 24-hour rainfall. August 2021 precipitation was measured at up to 300% compared to average. Rivers rose out of their banks to historic levels. The river level at Piney River near Vernon, Tennessee reached 31.8 feet, shattering the previous record set in 2019 by almost 12 feet. In Waverly, the flooding along Trace Creek brought devastation to the town. In addition to the heavy rainfall, a railroad bridge over Trace Creek upstream of Waverly became clogged with debris. The clog created a temporary lake with approximately 47,900,000 gallons of water. Suddenly the debris was freed, and the water rushed into Waverly in a matter of 8 to 9 minutes. Downtown Waverly was overwhelmed with up to 4 feet of water in a tsunami-like wall. The flash flooding took the lives of 22 people. Over 270 residences were destroyed and over 150 homes had major damage. Over 10,000 families were without power across 4 counties. Some phone lines and telecommunication systems were down. The water treatment facility for the city of Waverly was disrupted, and a boil water advisory was issued. It was estimated that the Waverly flood caused $23.9 million of damage. President Biden approved a federal major disaster declaration for affected counties to receive federal recovery aid, reimbursement for debris removal, and financial assistance from FEMA. The SBA offered low-interest disaster loans to businesses in the affected counties. On September 1, 2021, just 9 days after the flash floods, Tennessee Governor Bill Lee announced National Preparedness Month in an effort to urge Tennesseans to better prepare for natural disasters. In response to the floods, FEMA began to remap floodplains in the central Tennessee area. By February of 2022, 6 months after the Waverly flood, hundreds of properties in Davidson County were reclassified to lie within floodplains. FEMA has updated at least 61 flood map panels, and many more are still pending update. While classified as a 1,000-year flood, the Waverly flood event was much more rare than a 1 in 1,000 chance, according to Jeffrey Bonin, a retired hydrologist from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, known as NOAA. He said that the amount of rain received in a 24-hour period in central Tennessee was so rare that NOAA doesn't have sufficient historical data to quantify it any further. The historic flooding in Waverly, Tennessee took the collaboration of multiple government agencies and volunteer support groups to begin the rescue and cleanup process. The hardest hit areas are still recovering from the heavy rainfall and flash flooding, with years of rebuilding still to come.
That flood there, guys, for Waverly, my wife was involved in that one. Scariest part of it all for me. Where's that other video at? What's going to do? There it is.
In the middle of Tennessee, devastation that you usually only see. In the middle of Tennessee, devastation that you usually only see along a coastline.
As soon as I seen it come up over this bridge, dude, it was just like a mini tsunami.
What could be a new state record for rainfall, over 17 inches, falling fast and forcing a wall of water down Trace Creek and through the town of Waverly. It was too fast for many to react to any warning they might have had.
She told me that we need to get in the truck and go. The water was getting ready to come over the bridge. By the time we came outside, there was no saving anything. We were wading waist deep over to my mother-in-law's here in the next building.
Neighbors in the same apartment complex show the water that came up to the second floor balcony.
Up to that line right there. The first line.
The devastation stretches for miles. Houses swept away, cars still sitting in the creek bed that now flows well below its banks. But the real cost of this tragedy is counted in the lives lost and missing.
When that girl hit that tree right there, she hit that thing so hard and her head went under, and I never seen it come back up, dude.
Tragically, this death toll continues to rise in this very small town of Waverly. But when you talk to the survivors of homes literally swept away, you realize just how close it was from being an even greater tragedy.
That's all I could think about. Like, we're like, this is the end of the world. You know, I've read it in the Bible, you know, stuff like this, you know, end of the world type stuff. And, you know, all we could do was pray, man. We all sat up here and prayed, and we prayed hard. Shock
and sadness in the eyes of the survivors after a sight that has never been seen here before. In Waverly, Tennessee, I'm Jonathan Petramala.
Okay, we ain't doing that one. We are going to go to the Be Right Back, and we're going to switch over to Texas.
This is Camp Mystic, an all-girls Christian summer camp located along the banks of the Guadalupe River in the Texas Hill Country. 750 young girls and dozens of staff have just begun their summer term here. In just a few days, 25 campers, all aged 10 or under, 2 counselors.
I am going to open up the phone lines for y'all as well. Forgot to do that. Come on. Need for this real quick.
And the camp director will all be dead, washed away by raging floodwaters during a storm that would soon become the deadliest inland flooding event in the U.S. in nearly half a century. This is the story of those 27 girls.
Come on. Okay. What just happened? Hang on. My computer just said read off it. Just gonna do this real quick. We are gonna go to that just guys, I might have to redo this. Might have to redo this. Hang on. It's my computer just there it goes. I don't know what that's about, but okay.
Other individuals across
Alright, we are back.
the region who died that day. Camp Mystic was a Texas institution. It was the kind of place where someone's grandparents went, then their parents, then them, then their children. A tradition passed down through generations. Former First Lady Laura Bush worked as a counselor at the camp while she was in college, and Lady Bird Johnson attended various events there, ultimately sending her 2 daughters, Lucy and Linda, as campers. It was a place where the elites of Texas sent their daughters to grow, learn, and develop spiritually, through friendly competitions, activities, and weekly church services. For the girls, it was a little slice of heaven, where lifelong friendships were cultivated and where they were provided with the tools they needed to become successful young women. For the parents, it was a place where they could send their daughters for the summer without fearing for their safety. For decades, they put their blind faith into the camp's owners and staff, but there were always signs of the danger laying in plain sight. The Guadalupe River has always been known for its often sudden and violent floods. Part of a larger region within the Texas Hill Country known as Flash Flood Alley, it has been described as the most flash flood-prone region in the country. Oftentimes, the river was nearly completely dry, just a trickle, low enough for campers to walk across. But it had a tendency for destruction. On July 1st, 1932, a mere 6 years after the opening of Camp Mystic, it was inundated by floodwaters when the Guadalupe suddenly overflew its banks. Several of the camp's cabins were washed away, leaving dozens of girls to stand by and watch as their possessions were swept down the raging river. There were discussions about whether or not the camp should even reopen, but sure enough, a few months later they had begun to rebuild a little farther from the river's edge. The Guadalupe reared its ugly head again in August of 1978. In a series of floods that took the lives of 33 across the hill country, the river inundated Camp Mystic, reaching as far as the camp's dining hall. Campers awoke in the middle of the night to the view of floodwaters rapidly rising. With little time to spare, counselors evacuated them to higher ground. One girl later recalled watching cars and animals floating down the river from their elevated vantage point. News reports from the time state that the vehicles of 5 camp counselors were swept downstream by floodwaters. The camp was without food for several days, but by and large got lucky once again, with no fatalities or injuries. Less than 10 years later, in July 1987, floods struck the Guadalupe River yet again. 2 cabins were evacuated and staff spent the night observing the raging river, making sure it didn't rise higher. Once again, the campers at Camp Mystic avoided harm, but just a few miles down the river, 10 teenagers were killed when a bus evacuating them from a church camp near the city of Comfort was washed downstream. It was a brutal reminder of the river's power, and of the danger being so close to it posed. It was that year when Dick Eastland took ownership of the camp. Seeing the threat the river posed, Dick, who was a member of the Upper Guadalupe River Authority, the agency that manages the segment of the river that runs next to Camp Mystic, joined other local officials in an effort to install gauges along the river to better help emergency managers warn those along its banks of future floods. A couple of years later, their efforts proved successful, and the new gauge system was installed. In an interview with the Austin American-Statesman, Dick Eastland was quoted as saying, "I'm sure there will be other drownings. People don't heed warnings." In 1998, the company that maintained the state-of-the-art system, which wasn't even a decade old yet, abruptly closed its doors. The gauges soon stopped working due to a lack of maintenance, and in 1999, the River Authority elected to shut it down. They stated that the system was unreliable, with some of the system's stations not reporting information, citing a fear of false signals as a contributing factor in their decision. Over the subsequent years, Camp Mystic continued to expand. New cabins were constructed and the price of attendance rose, from $1,304 adjusted for inflation in 1996 to $6,154 in 2011. While profits grew, the camp did little to make its ever-expanding campus safer from flooding. In fact, quite the opposite. In 2011, FEMA included much of Camp Mystic in a special flood hazard area on its national flood insurance map. This meant that the camp was required to have flood insurance and had to deal with tighter regulations on any future construction projects within the hazard area. That designation was given to areas vulnerable to 100-year floods, or in other words, floods so severe that they have a 1% chance of happening in any given year. Seeing this map could have provided the Eastland family with an opportunity to relocate their most at-risk cabins to higher ground. But just 2 years later, FEMA removed 15 structures on the main campus of Camp Mystic from the special hazard area, following an appeal made by the camp's owners. 6 years later, in 2019, 15 more structures on the adjacent Cypress Lake campus were removed. Many analysts speculate that these appeals are made in an attempt to avoid the requirement to purchase flood insurance, to lower the camp's existing insurance premiums, or to allow them to renovate or add new structures within the at-risk area without the stringent regulations required in FEMA flood hazard areas. In other words, after government officials told them that their cabins were in a hazard area at high risk of dangerous flooding, the Eastlands chose to cheat the system, getting the government to redefine the hazard area so they could save a few bucks and continue expanding. While Camp Mystic was able to remove the designation specifically meant to ensure the safety and protection of its campers, the danger posed by the river obviously never went away, and was clear to everyone who cared enough to look. If the river's extensive history of damaging flooding wasn't enough, flood maps released by First Street, a climate risk modeling company, showed the expected severity of a 100-year flood. While 12 buildings were still left within the special hazard area, floodwaters in such an event were expected to rise much higher, putting the entire camp, including many of the cabins for its youngest campers, at risk. It was this section of cabins here, the ones closest to the river's edge, known to campers as the Flats, where the youngest campers slept. Despite their position on the hazardous floodplain, nothing was done to protect them from the river's floodwaters. While little was done to protect the camp itself, to Dick Eastland's credit, he and others on the Guadalupe River Authority continued to push for a new warning system to better alert people along the riverbanks of future floods. These plans called not only for new gauges, but a siren system as well, to provide direct and clear warning to everyone along the Guadalupe. However, their efforts were thwarted by a lack of funding and opposition from some local residents and politicians. Grant applications submitted by the River Authority were reportedly denied by the state of Texas in 2016 and 2017. A year later in 2018, posts on the official Camp Mystic Instagram account show flooding in the area, with the caption, "A little flooding on the bridge today. Rain days at camp are the best." Another attempt at getting a grant a few years later was stalled after it was discovered the grant they were pursuing would only cover 5% of the cost. While efforts on the local level were repeatedly failing to make progress, as recently as early 2025, efforts were being made on the state level to address some of the problems along the Guadalupe River. House Bill 13 aimed to create a government council that was to oversee the creation of a statewide emergency response plan, and the distribution of grants like those requested years before by the Guadalupe River Authority. Specifically called for in the bill was the addition of new outdoor warning sirens along at-risk rivers. Flooding was just a part of what the bill addressed, as it aimed to find solutions to a greater problem related to the state's preparedness for all sorts of natural disasters, an issue that was brought to the forefront following Texas government officials' questionable response to the Smokehouse Creek fire in 2024, the largest fire in state history, which torched over 1 million acres in the Texas Panhandle. While the bill managed to pass the Texas House of Representatives, there were signs of dissent within some sections of the state legislature. Among those holding such beliefs was Wes Friedel, the state representative for the 53rd House District, which included much of Kerr County, where Camp Mystic was located. Friedel voted against the bill, initially saying that too much funding was attached. The bill went on to pass through the House, but was rejected by the Senate in April of 2025. It was 2 months later when campers returned to the shores of the Guadalupe River. Over 700 girls from around the state were in attendance at Camp Mystic. They thought they were the lucky ones. Hundreds more had been left on a wait list. The girls were treated to days of activities and games under the late June sun. But a week into the session, danger loomed on the horizon. What would follow was a nightmare, a flood worse than the region had ever seen before. Those in power would later state that they weren't given proper warning, that nobody could have seen it coming. And while it's true that no one predicted the flooding would be as historic as it was, their statements don't tell the full story. In late June, a ridge of high pressure had stalled itself over the eastern portions of the United States. While the high pressure brought record heat to much of the eastern seaboard, it steered tropical moisture into Texas, setting up the conditions necessary for heavy rain-producing storms. On June 29th, Tropical Storm Barry made landfall 275 miles south of the US-Mexico border. Barry brought with it plentiful tropical moisture, which soon pushed inland, colliding with the already moist air in place over the Lone Star State. Combined with additional contributions from Hurricane Flossie in the eastern Pacific, and a developing tropical wave over Central America, by July 2nd, National Weather Service measurements indicated an abnormally moist atmospheric environment for July. Later that day, radar observations revealed the development of a mesoscale convective vortex in the Mexican state of Chihuahua, a small circulation that acts as a focal point for thunderstorm development. MCVs can often be erratic. Forecasters have noted that they can be particularly hard to predict and model properly, as was the case on July 2nd as the system crossed the Rio Grande River and made its way into the Big Bend region of Texas. Moving slowly, it caused flooding near Big Bend National Park, and the writing was on the wall for continued flooding as it progressed east. Accordingly, on the afternoon of July 3rd, the National Weather Service office in Austin, San Antonio issued a flood watch for much of the Texas Hill Country, including Kerr County and much of the Guadalupe River. The watch called for 1 to 3 inches of rain, with isolated areas of 5 to 7 inches possible. As the evening progressed, storms soon moved into the region, as the upper atmosphere was inundated with historic levels of moisture, reaching the surface via a series of slow-moving, training thunderstorms. By 7 p.m., the Weather Prediction Center had released a mesoscale precipitation discussion, noting that concerning trends for backbuilding and training thunderstorms over the Texas Hill Country were present. Such storms could produce upwards of 3 inches per hour max rainfall rates. At Camp Mystic, campers were just finishing dinner. They played games, danced, and socialized, before eventually returning to their cabins. At 10, the girls were put to bed and the lights were turned out. The low hum of chatter was replaced by the pitter-patter of rain. But by midnight, that pitter-patter had become a cacophony. Sheets of rain attacked the walls and windows as thunder shook the ground. Many of the girls were woken up. Counselors tried their best to calm the girls down and get them back to sleep, but there would be little rest that night. While the cabins were descending into chaos, the river was rising. At 1:14 a.m. on the 4th of July, the National Weather Service issued a flash flood warning for much of Kerr County, calling for life-threatening flash flooding. Phone data reveals that at the time, camp owner Dick Eastland was awake and actively monitoring the storm. 30 minutes later, he radioed his son Edward, who helped run the camp. According to an interview Edward Eastland gave to the New York Times, his father told him that they'd gotten about 2 inches of rain within the past hour, and that they needed to move the canoes away from the waterfront. They promptly did so, moving them to a hillside adjacent to the flats, where they assumed they'd be safe from the rising floodwaters. Soon, camp staff gathered together inside the office, where they continued to monitor the situation. Joining the Eastlands there was camp night watchman Glenn Yankee. At 2:14 a.m., an hour after the flash flood warning calling for life-threatening flooding had been issued by the National Weather Service, Mr. Yankee recorded this video of the raging waters at the nearby Bubblegum Creek, a small tributary of the Guadalupe that usually ran dry. 7 minutes later, Dick Eastland texted his wife, "Bubblegum Creek is bad. Look at the radar." Still, the Eastlands seemed to expect things to get better. His wife responded by saying it looked like storms would be over shortly. But the waters were still rising, and it was at roughly the same time when counselors at Bug House, a cabin housing 12-year-olds closest to the river, noticed water seeping in through the doors. Quickly, they ran to the camp office where they alerted the Eastlands. The Eastlands drove the 2 counselors back and tried to reassure them, later recalling that at that point it was just a normal flood. But shortly before 3 a.m., Edward received a call from the gatehouse at the entrance to the camp. A staff member staying there radioed in saying that there was water coming into her cabin. She told Edward that she couldn't get the door open, before her voice was replaced by what Edward would later describe as very strange noises. She was unreachable after that. It was around that time when the cabin was swept down the river by the raging waters. The staff member inside survived by clinging onto a tree. Shortly after that, Dick Eastland ordered the evacuation of Bug House. The waters were getting too high. By this point, waters had already enveloped much of the camp dining hall and were just reaching the cabins on the flats. The campers in Bug House were loaded into the vehicles of Dick Eastland, Edward Eastland, and Mr. Yankee, who drove them on a pathway that cut directly through the flats. While they were taken to higher ground, the campers in Bubble Inn, Twins, Gigglebox, Nut House, and Jumble House stayed put. It was what the camp safety plan called for during a flood. These sheets were posted on the walls of the cabins. All they provided was a short paragraph of instructions. All campers were to stay in their cabins. Instructions will be provided over the PA system. All cabins are constructed on high, safe ground. Never once did the Eastlands or other staff come around to tell them to evacuate. Never once did anyone at the camp come over the PA system set up all around the entire campus to instruct them to reach higher ground. So, the counselors did what they were taught to do, all while trying to calm cabins full of panicked girls as the waters rose higher. The counselors at Nut House watched as Bug House was evacuated. They could see out their windows as the waters quickly creeped closer. Eventually, they decided to take matters into their own hands, evacuating campers up a nearby hill. Shortly afterwards, the counselors at Jumble House ventured outside to ask Edward Eastland for permission to take their campers to higher ground as well. He told them yes, a luxury he never gave to any of the other nearby cabins. This photo was taken at 3:26. It shows campers from Jumble House evacuating to the rec hall, the water shin high. This video, taken by a staffer from the second floor of the camp office, was taken at roughly the same time. The girls can be seen evacuating in the background as rapids flow mere feet away, including right through Twins' cabin. Twins' cabin, along with the neighboring Bubble Inn and Wiggle Inn, housed the youngest age bracket staying at the camp. The campers in these cabins were 8 to 9 years old. They hadn't been told to leave, but by this point it was already too late. The water was too high for those girls to walk through, and it was still rising. Realizing this, Dick and Edward Eastland would rush to Bubble Inn and Twins' cabin respectively, while Mr. Yankee would head to Wiggle Inn. Almost as soon as he got there, Mr. Yankee would find himself forced to stand atop a bunk bed. The campers and counselors were soon forced to float on inflatable mattresses. The bunks thrashed against the walls as the rapids brought in large clumps of stinging fire ants. The girls held hands, one of the counselors led the group in prayer. Mr. Yankee tried to joke with them to lighten the mood, but beneath that facade, the 57-year-old retired police officer was terrified. Camp Mystic wasn't the only camp being affected by the floods, though. It was around the same time waters were inundating the flats that this video, showing a cabin full of counselors floating down the Guadalupe, was captured a few miles to the north at Camp La Junta, an all-boys camp. Everyone in the cabin, as well as all 400 boys in attendance, would survive. Meanwhile, staff members in the camp office called into 911. Panicked and helpless as the camp was swallowed around them, they tried their best to call for help.
I'm calling for Camp Mystic. The water is almost in our home. What
are you in Hunt, Texas?
Yes, we are in Hunt, Texas. Camp Mystic.
Okay. What I will tell you right now is I'm going to transfer you to the sheriff's office so they can get your address. What I can tell you right now is we have everybody head that direction, including water rescues, to try and get everybody across the city out and safe, okay?
There's 4 teenagers, 4 20-year-olds, actually.
Okay. And they're not currently at the house anymore?
No, they got washed away.
Okay. We do have boats that are headed out there or are out there already working on getting everybody, so they are working on getting everybody who's in the water.
We live about a mile down the road from Camp Mystic, and we've already got 2 little girls who have come down the river, and we've gotten to them, but I'm not sure how many else are out there.
Kerr County 911, what is the location of your emergency? Kerr County 911, can you hear me? Kerr County 911, is anyone there?
I'm stuck in this room. I can't get out. There's water. The door, the window's broken, and there's water coming in through it.
The building's falling apart. Oh my God. Oh my gosh.
And you're unable to get out?
Oh, the water's so high. Oh no. Oh no.
The windows, it's gonna come in all at once. The windows are rattling.
Yes, ma'am. I've got everybody at your direction, but I have other 911 calls I have got to take that way.
My house is flooding. I can't go anywhere. My house is moving. We're going to die.
We're going to do everything we can to avoid that, okay?
I have an infant. She can't hold her breath.
Okay, I'm going to have to disconnect. We have other 911 calls.
Don't. Please, baby. Please don't. Please. Please, I'm begging you. Please have somebody to talk to me. I'm scared.
Kerr County 911, what is the location of your emergency?
Thank him for it. The Eastland family could transfer this entire camp.
She was only just becoming. Listen to her mother describe her.
These days, I find myself considering Seal's legacy. How she'll be remembered. It is not what I imagined for her, and certainly not what she imagined for herself. But I cannot bear the idea of Seal remaining known as Seal Stewart, age 8, unaccounted for, the only Mystic camper who is yet to be recovered. I haven't shared much publicly about Seal, who she was, what she loved, and who she wanted to be. I've been consumed with her recovery and fighting for accountability for what happened to her, not with telling the world about her. And frankly, I cherish every memory of her life and want to keep it close to my heart. But Seal's legacy is not a statistic. It is not a weather event. It is a parent's worst nightmare, but she was my daughter. And her absence is like the sky spread over everything. Seal would never want our pain.
And testify for these things today. 27 girls will never get to speak in this building, never have the time on earth to graduate college, to marry the love of their life, to have a baby, or to realize their dreams. I don't want any more children to die at a Texas youth camp.
The two of us recently visited my 106-year-old grandmother in June because I feared the opposite would occur. And Virginia and her luggage created a checklist of the things so that she could prepare. Things from 2 goggles, 2 shorts, and many other things. We prepared. We made sure she'd have familiar faces on the first day at camp. Took a lot of work and time because we live in a rural town. As we best could, we prepared her to have the time of her life, to make friends and have her own experiences without us. We wanted to give her the gift to grow outside of our control, but in safety. Of the 3 girls she met prior to camp, only 1 survived. I support Senate Bill 1 because all the time and preparation we gave to our daughter, at a minimum, that same care needs to be required by law for the children at all Texas camps. We thought she would be safe there. Instead, she died.
The testimonies revealed an obvious truth. That years of complacency and brazen failures from those responsible for keeping campers and those residing in the hill country safe were responsible for the widespread loss of life. It was through these hearings that new legislation aiming at addressing camp safety were introduced. These bills look to require camps to submit emergency management plans to the state, enhance training for staff members, and ban cabins in floodplains. Representative Drew Darby was the author of the bill. On the day his bill was passed, he spoke in front of the chamber. With the parents of the Heavens 27 in attendance, he read out the names of the girls lost at Camp Mystic.
Members, this bill is for Heavens 27. In closing, I want to read their names aloud. Some of their families are in the gallery. And parents, if you'll stand when I read your daughter's name. Mary Grace Baker, Anna Margaret Bellows, Lila Bonner, Chloe Childress, Molly DeWitt, Lucy Dillon, Catherine Ferruzio, Elizabeth Getton, Hadley Hannah, Virginia Hollis, Janie Hunt, Mary Kate Jacoby, Lainey Landry, Hannah Lawrence, Rebecca Lawrence, Kellyanne Lytle, Sarah Marsh, Lenny McCowan, Blakely McCrory, Wynn Naylor, Eloise Peck, Abby Pohl, Margaret Sheedy, Rennie Sesmastra, Mary Stevens, Seal Stewart, Greta Taranza, thank you for your presence today. We are honored to have you. We share your grief. We support you in all ways. And with that, with the members gathered here today, in honor of your children and your families, I move passage.
136 ayes and 1 nay. House Bill 1 passes to engrossment.
But not everyone was on board with these reforms. Representative Wes Verdell felt the bill went too far and unfairly punished summer camps like Camp Mystic.
I think this bill was specifically drafted to target Camp Mystic to shut them down.
He criticized language in the bill requiring ladders and fiber optic internet access at camps as unnecessary financial obstacles. Verdell claims Darby knew the bills were flawed, but rushed them anyway.
And then Drew Darby, who was the author of the bill, who was carrying the bill basically for the lobby company. And he's been one of the people that have been pointing fingers quite a bit and trying to blame people.
I think the representative is off base when he says we were simply listening to one group over all the others, that we were trying to force Camp Mystic out of business. That is just not true. We're trying to protect campers, and if camp owners can't do what it takes to protect them, then maybe they shouldn't be in business. The idea that we're trying to answer to some sort of lobby group to act against other camps, I want to protect other camps. I want to protect the process.
We pressed Verdell on his no votes on the camp safety bills. There are people who are going to look at this and say, well, if those bills were in place a year or two ago, they could have saved some lives. So what do you say to them?
It's a great question. I would have to say that I think that the rules are bad still to begin with, and we shouldn't implement a bunch of those. I don't like this bill. I mean, I wouldn't have implemented it 2 years ago.
A irreplaceable hole now exists where the joy, happiness, and glow of a loved one once stood. Portions of the disaster area have rebuilt. Many summer camps have begun to reopen. But for those families, there will never be true recovery. All we can do now is ensure that those lost are remembered, that the lives they lived are not reduced to mere statistics, but seen as the humans they were, and work towards making sure that a disaster like this will never happen again. There are no proper words to end a video like this, so instead we'll leave you with a song written by Virginia Hollis, an 8-year-old victim of the floods who was staying at Camp Mystic. She called it Virginia's Song.
Thank you.
Give me 1 second, guys. I'm coming back. I had to grab something. I think I found it. Yeah. Now this one's going to do it again. Great.
Have you ever wanted to see your home from space?
Again, right now, Meg. Megan, what are you seeing?
Yeah, we are seeing, I mean, I am far away, so it's hard to see. Irissa, do they look, what age group does that look like that got a
Like
5, 6, 7-year-olds, so young girls? Okay, yeah, it looked like another group of young girls getting off that helicopter. We apologize for losing that signal there for a little bit. We have another helicopter coming over us right now, too. Let's see if this one makes a landing at the high school as well. And this is where they are being, we were told this is where they're being medically evaluated at the high school, and then they will be brought over to the elementary school to be reunited with their family. A lot of these families rushing to this small town from all over the state. This was supposed to be a fun experience for these girls, memories to last a lifetime, and unfortunately it was met with some devastation and some really, really terrifying moments. But I'm telling you, it is actually such a relief to see those children get off the helicopters and get out safely. I mean, this is what everyone has been praying for, truly. We're watching another helicopter land right now, so let's see. It's hard to see. I'm not going to lie, they're behind a fence, so it is hard to see who's coming out of that. But like we said, once they're evaluated here, then they'll be brought over to their parents. And I did see a bus just moments ago pull up, so I'm assuming they'll take some of those kiddos over to be reunited with their parents. And this might have been a quick drop off because this one's going right up in the air. So they are acting quickly here. And we were told also, I want to point out, earlier in the press conference, this operation we were told is going to go into the night as long as it takes to make sure that everyone is safe. Henry, Sarah.
Megan, I want to ask you, because you and I have been talking via text as well. Some of these parents of these kids from Camp Mystic, you've been in contact with. Some of these children who have been unaccounted for. Give me that context. You and I haven't had a chance to really talk about it. What have you learned from some of these parents?
Yeah, these parents they're terrified, Henry. I spoke with the father earlier, and I want to be a little cautious. So her name was Lainey Landry. He basically, he of course wants her picture out there, wants to make sure she's okay. He was anxiously waiting by the phone to make sure to see if anyone knew anything, and he was wanting her photo to be shared across social media. It could be very possible that she is on one of these helicopters and is okay, but you could hear the worry, the panic in his voice, and it almost my heart just completely broke speaking with him, and that just gives you an idea of just the fear that these parents that they have, and the devastation that might be going through their minds as they think of the what ifs. But that was just one child, that was just one father I was able to speak with. I also want an Astros legend who is now no longer plays for the team right now, but Alex Bregman himself even tweeted on X or posted on X about a few girls that are still unaccounted for. He's posting pictures of them on his X profile, just trying to get the word out to see if anyone knows about these young girls. One of them's named Virginia. The other one is named Kellyanne Lytle, both from Camp Mystic. So even a Houston legend, Houston Astros.
Here's how I got my contacts for free using my vision insurance benefits on 1-800-CONTACTS. I use 1-800.
Baseball player is posting about some of those girls that were unaccounted for, and that was as recently as 36 minutes ago when he posted about Virginia Hollis asking for people to share and if they knew anything to call the parents. And I will say, in a lot of these posts we're seeing on social media, it has the phone numbers to the parents. Do not contact them unless you know something, because the last thing they want is their hopes to get their hopes up and then get a phone call from someone with no invalid or credible information. But of course they want their photos and that information be shared just in case someone does know something. But at this point, we believe that parents are aware of that reunification site at the elementary school, which is just down the road from where we are right now. And we are still, more helicopters just keep coming in. So we're just going to stay and keep showing you what we're seeing. And just for some context, I am off of Highway 39, right next to the Guadalupe River. And then on this other side, like Henry is mentioning, the high school, where it is turned into this rescue mission and really the landing spot for these helicopters to get these children medically evaluated and make sure that they are all doing okay. Henry, Sarah, I don't know if y'all have any more questions about what we're seeing. I know y'all want to probably keep watching what we're looking at right now.
Incredible images that we're looking at here, Megan, and you being on the ground. I was wondering, so Camp Mystic, the lieutenant governor said, had more than 700 kids, 23 unaccounted for. Are you able to get a number on how many kids have already made it and have been rescued and there? Because Jeremy mentioned there were 30 girls earlier, and now you're seeing all these helicopters coming down. Any idea, have you had a chance to speak with anyone, how many girls have made it on site so far?
We have not, just because we're across the street from, and we don't want to interfere with our operations. I'm seeing 7 to 8 girls get off this helicopter, and then before that was probably the same. I would say we're up to 30, like Jeremy was saying, just from what we've seen in the last 10 minutes. So there are a lot of people being evacuated. It brings up the question of if the unaccounted for, I guess if they knew that these girls were still on the campground, but they were already in maybe an elevated, safer area, and now they're going in and grabbing them, and who the unaccounted for are. I mean, that's just speculation, of course. We don't know this. We aren't able to speak with anyone. But where that 23 comes in, where that number comes in, it kind of is making me question, because we have seen some reports online. Of course, this is just people that know some of the family members, so not, from the officials,
Megan,
about some
Megan,
of the campsites being swept away.
Megan, I know that you're on the other side, and it's really hard for you to see, but Irissa's doing a great job as we're zooming in right now. I want to just walk through our viewers as to what we're seeing, because it looks like that these girls that we're seeing, in several of them from officials, that it looks like they're taking their photo as soon as they just got off the helicopter before they're being medically checked. Which is interesting, because I'm assuming that will then just make sure that their parents know that their child is safe. That's very interesting that I've been seeing that as soon as they got off the helicopter. But Megan, I mean, this is just incredible, because this is our first time really seeing this recovery efforts that we've been talking about all day. And it's been nonstop as you see it.
It has been nonstop. And I just wanted to put perspective on this when I mentioned more than 700 girls at the camp. This is a massive rescue effort, because if you're looking at 7 to 8 girls per helicopter, this is going to go on for hours, and the clock is ticking as the sun is about to set, and also with the rain coming down later today. So this is going nonstop. But my question to you, Megan, was the father that you mentioned speaking to earlier. We know that it sounds like the campground had a list of everyone, because they were able to identify 23 unaccounted for, and officials said they contacted those parents. So it sounds like those parents already know if their kids are not going to be here in these helicopters. That father that you spoke to, did he give you an idea? I mean, he didn't get any phone calls, right?
No, he didn't. In fact, Sarah, when we spoke, one of the first things out of his mouth was, do you know where she is? So and like that's kind of the point I was trying to kind of connecting the dots myself there, Sarah, with, you know, we're seeing all these children getting off the helicopter, but yeah, this is likely these aren't the children that are, you know, being posted online, unfortunately, just considering the fact that they probably still had kids there, right, 700 that they needed to evacuate.
Right.
But they still have that list of unaccounted for. So,
well, and in a way, the fact he didn't get a phone call.
We spoke less than an hour ago.
Yeah, in a way, the fact that he didn't get a phone call is good news. If you don't get a phone call, that's good news, because officials said they will let you know if your kid is unaccounted for.
Right.
We have got to the point where literally anybody can build a fully working app without knowing how to code.
Alright guys, we were going to end this live stream here on the flood. No. Tonight we are doing our RP. I don't know what they got up their sleeves. I hope it's fun. But I'm gonna do a live stream in the next few minutes of Farm Sim, so if y'all want to join the carnival, y'all can. So I'll see y'all in a few.
My darling dear, you're never here. When I'm in pain, you hide and disappear. Like shadows in the atmosphere, charting the stratosphere. Yeah. I prayed for you and kept you near, in hopes you'd chase away my fears. I'm on my own.